Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week I'm sitting down with my podcasting brother, Mr. Brandon Jones from the Animation Destination, and over the next year and some change, we're going to be dropping a review each month in chronological order of every film from the legendary Hayao Miyazaki. I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons that help support this podcast. Bill, Brent, Eight-Legged Bird, Jacob, Jordan, and Monique. Thank you all so much for your support. It truly means a lot. If you want to become a member of our Patreon channel to help support this show and get all these episodes early and ad-free, follow the link below and sign up today. Now, let's get to that chat with Brandon. And we're talking Lupin the Third, The Castle of Cagliostro. Straight mafia movie for this one. I had told Brandon before we had hit record, it wasn't until probably listening to Animation Destination where I really dove deep and started watching a lot of Miyazaki films. I'd seen Spirited Away quite often, but it wasn't until I really understood the appreciation not only does every fan of, like, true fan of animation has, but everybody in the industry, how much they look up to this guy. He truly is the master, right? And like I said, no better person to do it with do Miyazaki films than with Brandon here. So we're going to kick it off. Brandon, let's open it up, man. Lupin the Third.
Yeah.
Take us to this world.
Have you ever watched any Lupin the Third prior to this, Julian?
No, I have not. No.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. He created by Monkey Punch. That is the author's name. He has a real name, but people call him Monkey Punch. And in the I want to say late 60s, maybe he created this character in the manga. It's an interesting movie for that because everyone says, and this is pretty universally known by Lupin fans. I'm a big Lupin fan, so I'm really into the lore of Lupin and stuff like that. And everyone kind of has like the same opinion about this movie. This is a really great animated movie, and it's a terrible Lupin movie. It's just like, he is not this character at all. Like, and there's like vestiges of him in this character and stuff like that. But this is like the first time that he's sort of like 100% a white knight saving a damsel type of thing. He's always been like a gentleman thief style character, or like, and well, he's not always been. He has been portrayed sometimes as a gentleman thief type character. A lot of the times, especially old school Lupin, he's a scumbag that just robs other scumbags. So he's very anti-hero in a lot of ways, and they kind of stride that line with his movies now. They kind of hit those Cagliostro like charming notes every now and then, but he's never super honorable. It's always about robbing somebody or redoing something from his past or stuff like that. Doing Lupin movies would be great too, honestly. But Castle of Cagliostro was, it was kind of a thing that Miyazaki really wanted to do because he got his start on the Lupin Part 2, the Red Jacket series. So for those that don't know, Lupin has different parts in the anime. The first part is Green Jacket. Second part is Red Jacket. Third is Pink Jacket, and it goes on forth and through there. But he always changed.
Jackets signify
Nothing other than like that's just a new part. It just kind of it kind of became a thing. He was originally just Green Jacket. And I think part 2, they decided they wanted to get a different look, and they gave him the Red Jacket. This movie goes back to green, even though it comes after part 2. He goes back to green because it's kind of like it's an older story that kind of celebrates his older episodes and stuff like that. But a lot of this was kind of revamped to be much more fairy tale, much more very adventurous in this one. It's not really about the robberies. Like, there's a little bit about counterfeit money. That's like it in this. That's like kind of like the gentleman thief part of it. But basically, he's just like the hero saving the damsel. That's like what he's doing in this movie. He's not really like the thief or anything like that. So apart from running from the cops. So, but yeah, it was something that Miyazaki really wanted to do because he wanted to do an animated movie, and he got his start in the business by doing Lupin. So, and this was the first thing he directed. No, sorry, he directed 2 episodes of part 2 that came way late in the series. They were like the last 2 episodes of the series, and they were done by Studio Ghibli, and he directed those 2 episodes. But they didn't air until after Cagliostro came out. So yeah, this was a thing that he always wanted to do. So yeah.
Now the
Lupin.
green lights make sense. Like I figured it was a play on
Yeah,
his suit, but I never knew. Well, obviously I've never known because this is the only Lupin that I've seen.
yeah.
But it got me interested because I really like the character. But watching this movie the first time, the character always felt like he was out of place. Not in a sense
Mhm.
of like he had ulterior motives. Like I got the whole Robin Hood-esque character,
Right.
but he was definitely that what's that word I'm looking for? Shit, I can't think like a heist, not a heist guy. Man, I'll end up cutting out this part real quick, but I can't fucking think of that word.
Yeah.
Um,
Anti-hero,
no, no,
or
not so much an
yeah.
anti-hero. He was a shyster. Maybe that's not the right word either.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Uh,
just a thief kind of guy, or like a really, again, he was always kind of portrayed
used
more.
car salesman. That's what he
Yeah,
gave me the vibe.
yeah. His look is definitely very, like, very scummy type of guy, and
Hmm.
he also isn't really perverted at all in this take of him, and he is a vastly perverted character. Like, he's always doing the leering and the ooh, the babes. He doesn't really do that in this at all. So that's another aspect that, like, kind of people kind of say, like, this isn't really Lupin. It's a good movie. It's just not Lupin. Like, there's nothing. His supporting cast isn't very much like them. There's a few that
Supporting.
are. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're not very the same. Like Jigen, his gun guy with the hat.
That is pretty dope.
Yeah, yeah, he's very Clint Eastwood esque
Hmm.
in his. There's a Japanese actor that he's based off of, and I forget what the guy's name is, but he's very much based on that. But Jigen is his gunman, and he, like, has nothing to do in this movie. Like, he's just
Which I was
basically
surprised.
yeah, he's kind of dragged along, and Jigen always has, like, kind of like a little arc in his
Hmm.
movies, even if it's just like, oh, he's gonna take on the heavy that's in the movie. Like, he gets to take out the heavy with his gun and his little 6-shooter revolver. He takes that guy out, that sort of thing. He kind of is just kind of like, he's just there. He's just kind of dragged along Lupin stuff. A lot of fun animation with him, especially the car chase scene and stuff like that, and the scene where they're eating in the diner and
Hmm.
Lupin's doing
The
the
spaghetti.
spaghetti, the giant thing of spaghetti. It's just, I love that. Stuff like that is great. But he doesn't really get to do a lot. Goemon, the samurai, he's pretty on par. That's pretty much what he always does. He's just the quiet
I
guy that,
wanted so much more. I wanted
yeah,
so much more from him.
yeah, you would enjoy a lot of his stuff. A lot of people's favorite movies is his solo movie. Actually, it's
Really?
more based on him. Yeah, it's his little story that he gets to do. But Goemon's always great. He always gets to just, be there, be awesome, and then cut down something really quickly and say that he cut a worthless object with his awesome sword. Fujiko is completely off character. She's completely off kilter in this whole thing. I don't know why she's there, honestly.
Mhm.
It's she kind of wants to get the treasure of Cagliostro, which is like her thing, but she's always the character that's, like, kind of backstabbing, but ultimately joins the team. She's just the ultimate, like, thought character that's that's in there. So she kind of, like, heroically shows up at the wedding and, like, helps out for that. Fujiko would never do that. Like,
Mhm.
she wouldn't give a crap about this wedding. She would only be there for the treasure. So it was, they kind of okay, we can shove them into these heroic roles while we do this movie, essentially. So yeah, and it's interesting. It is an interesting thing because it does, like, set up, because there's tons of Lupin movies. Like, there's like 37 TV and theatrical movie.
Jesus.
Yeah, like, theatrical and television movies, there's like 37 total. It's nuts. um they might have hit 40 at this point. I don't know.
I'm way behind.
Yeah, right. There's like a ton of these things, but this one kind of set the mode for how it goes, because every Lupin movie kind of has to have that soul to it, to him to be kind of be a hero. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because he can't just be the guy that's robbing somebody. That's just, that's petty, and, okay, you're just robbing from another guy. You're just a guy who robs people. Blah blah. So there's always a Lupin girl that gets inserted into every movie. And the Lupin girl is basically your Bond girl, but she's like the innocent girl that's tied to the plot that Lupin has to, like, help in conjunction with getting his score,
Mhm.
essentially. And that's kind of what the main girl in here is. And what's her name? Elise? What is her name? Princess?
Oh
Something
no,
like that.
Clarice.
Clarice. Yeah, Clarice is like the first Lupin girl, canonically, that people really enjoy. So it's an interesting movie because people kind of say it's not really Lupin, but it's sort of informed a lot of
Mhm.
Lupin going forward, especially for the movies, because there is this dashingness to him that he will help out somebody that's kind of is down on that's kind of in a bad situation, and he's a thief, but he's a good thief. He's going to help you out, so
He's a good
he's
thief.
he's a good thief. And Zenigata is great in this. Zenigata, the detective, who's after Lupin. You can measure a good Lupin movie with how good Zenigata is portrayed, because
Mhm.
if he's portrayed as just a bumbling idiot, you've done it wrong. He's not bumbling. He's very good at his job. Lupin is better at his job. Like, so that's the only thing you need to get right. Like, people respect Zenigata because he is a world class Interpol detective, but Lupin is way smarter than him, so he never gets to get Lupin. And the police chases in this are phenomenal. His little side plot where he figures out the count is actually behind the whole counterfeit
Counterfeit.
stuff is great. So yeah, it's an interesting little entry because like it's sort of the start of everything, but also isn't looked upon as like a top tier Lupin movie. It's like a mid tier kind of like a top tier movie, mid tier Lupin movie. It's very interesting. So
Now, it makes sense. Now, you had mentioned probably my favorite sequence in this entire movie.
mhm,
The opening,
mhm.
opening like 10 minutes from the
Yeah.
credits and on, that whole when he's finding Clarice for the first time and she ends up getting swooped up by the mob and them
Mhm.
throwing the money out after they found out it was all counterfeit. I loved I don't know what it is about anime. I've watched more of it these last couple years than I've ever watched in my entire life. I love how much like attention to detail they put into an intro, into a
Mm.
credit sequence. The intro to this movie was, like I said, my favorite scene in the entire movie. The car chase, them trying to save the damsel in distress,
Yeah.
and then them just pausing when the credits are rolling, and then you see these beautiful backgrounds of like suns coming up, suns going down, cars going
Mm.
by. Did you ever
Yeah.
play this old there was this old game it was might have been Super Nintendo or it might have been Nintendo, I just can't remember which one. Remember playing
Mm.
Top Gear?
Oh yeah. Played Top Gear.
So the way they drove in this movie reminded me of that video game so much. I don't know if you can pick that up or not.
I could totally see what you're talking about there. Yeah, the way motion happened
We
is
just
very
dated
similar.
ourselves, by the way.
We did.
Go
We
go
totally did
watch Top
ourselves.
Gear real quick, ladies and gentlemen, on Super
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Yeah, not the British TV show,
Yeah,
the video game
the
Top
video
Gear.
game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally see that. Totally, absolutely. There's a great amount of and this is something Studio Ghibli does great, is just that active motion.
Mhm.
You always have to have a car chase scene in a Lupin movie now. Like that's just like you have to have a vehicle chase. This
It's like
was
the
like the
Akira slide. It's got to be in everything.
exactly, and this kind of started it because it was just like we're gonna have this like cartoonishly tiny little car. I forgot what they
Yeah.
call that type of car, but it's that dinky
Reminds me of
little
a clown car.
yeah, it's like a Volkswagen Bug car, just
Mhm.
this dinky little thing, and it's just it's taking a pounding in this chase. Like, there's no way this thing would even be running by the end of it. But it's just the way they convey motion with it is so fun, and it's so cartoony and Looney Tunes. But like it just I don't know, it's just the way that they run motion with this thing is really cool, and it's a great opening sequitur to it. Plus, you got like this cadre of cops that are all just like poking out of other cars
Mhm.
and reaching for him and slapping cuffs on him. It's so crazy and wacky. It's so much fun. Like, I
Another
love it.
thing, another thing that it reminded me of, just because I had watched this movie recently, but Tommy Boy, when by the
Mm.
end of it, the car's essentially falling apart from
Yeah.
the door falling off to the shit getting ripped off by the deer. That's what it
Mm.
reminded me of. It was just old reliable came through for this one.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
so we open up. Like I
Hmm.
said, they get done, they get that big score, and then they're driving down the road, and then they notice, oh shit, all of this is counterfeit.
It's
So they
counterfeit
start
money.
throwing money, just letting it fly out of the car. A chase ensues. They go to find the damsel in distress, essentially,
Hmm.
and then they get taken by a way of trying to figure out what's going on to the
Hmm.
castle, to the count,
Yeah.
and that's where everything opens up, man. So before we go a little bit further into the movie, what was your favorite scene from this movie? Has it happened yet? Did you like the chase scene? Do you like something a little bit later?
Chase scene is top tier. I think I love the wedding scene. I think
Yeah.
that's great stuff. It's great superhero type chaotic
Hmm.
junk, and then the subsequent fight in the clock tower is just like wow, like this
Yeah.
it great stuff. Absolutely wonderful. So,
Dude, they
um,
had me on the hook when oh, what does he throw? Shit, does he hit him with a gun or does he hit him with something? And then you see his
yeah,
head bounce off the roof and then the blood comes.
yeah,
I'm like, oh my God, did they just kill him? Like they
yeah,
had me
yeah.
on hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, they had you. They had it with you. Yeah. It was. It's a very somber type of situation too, because she's like basically like I don't know, drugged up or something, like going
Hmm.
into this wedding or whatever. She's basically like a walking zombie, and then it just it's a great it's always a great little, what do you call it? The Princess Bride style thing where
Yes.
you swoop in, do the rescue at the wedding type of deal. It's classic for a reason, and the chaos that ensues, and all the little animation of like Jigen shooting the giant guns and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and just all the nonsense. Fujiko's there as a reporter for some reason, helping out. I don't know why. It's just it's great stuff, and the rockets in his cloak that like fire him up, and it's just love goofy Looney Tune style heist stuff like that. It's so fun. So
So
yeah,
where do you think this movie peaks at? When you go through and watch this whole movie again, where does it peak?
I man, it's tough to say. I like when I do think that the second out downturn when Lupin is wounded, I think is a
Hmm.
big one. I think that's that because like Lupin's always like kind of in control of a situation, even when it's not like perceived that he's in control. Like he's always
Hmm.
like the guy in the mask or the guy over there. The villains think they have the upper hand, but actually he's had, he had the bullets the whole time. Something to that degree, like this is like a really like actual like act two downturn where like, oh, Lupin almost died, essentially, So it's a good little hook. It'll grab you, like you said, like you think he gets shot, like boom, like he falls off the cliff and everything, and like and that's it. But it Zenigata can't convince Interpol to like to superiors to go and like do this because the Count has like this immunity and stuff like that. So it's this kind of crunch time. You think like, oh, that's kind of it. Obviously, it's not it, but it sets up for the wedding so nicely because it's sort of like this really downer, like there's no stopping this situation, like everybody has their hands tied and Lupin is dead, so it's like what's gonna happen. So it informs the craziness and the zaniness that comes back, because the moment Lupin comes back into the movie, like everything's uplifted again, like it's not this dour situation, it's now this fun adventure again because Lupin's here, so.
So sitting back, when was the last time before we reached out and said, "Hey, let's do all Miyazaki films"? When was the last time you watched this one?
Last time I watched this one was 2 years ago via Discord, I think. I'd watched this one. I watch Lupin movies quite a lot, so
Hmm.
it's weird. But yeah, I had some friends on Discord, and a few friends hadn't seen it or hadn't seen it in a while, and we all just decided let's watch some Cagliostro, and yeah, we all streamed that and had a blast watching it. So
How well
before
does it
I
hold up for you?
Oh, I think it holds up great. I think it holds
Yeah.
up like obviously animation wise, everything Studio Ghibli does is
Yes.
like that informs most animation today.
Hmm.
So it's like, of course, that holds up. Obviously, um, the kinetic energy of like a character running in a Studio Ghibli movie is like I like if everyone could do that, like everything would be better. It's like obviously you don't want everybody to look the same, but just the way they do that kind of like cycle, There's a famous scene that happens in every Lupin movie or series, and it's when his back is up against the wall, the spotlight shows him, and he runs across the wall with bullets flying behind him.
Mhm.
And that's in every single Lupin iteration. It's iconic, and it's at the start of this movie, and it's one of the best of it because the way they do the run is like, oh, that's amazing. So it, it's always fun to see like the way they do motion is insane. Like the way they do surreal is great too. The way they do food is great, but the fact that like Lupin is this zany Looney Tune style motion with impact is what is very important, and it works so well for these characters. So it holds up
I
totally.
I never get I never get more hungry than when I watch a Studio Ghibli movie or
Yep.
when I watch a Goofy movie with that pizza or any
Yes.
Ninja Turtle movie with pizza. It's
Yeah.
just they have such a way with food and food scenes. We talked a little bit about this before we hit record. You
Mhm.
had mentioned the spaghetti scene where they're just fucking forking it in and then trying to do the whole, you know,
Giant ball of
yes,
spaghetti.
and it's just it's one of those things that it's like you see a lot of it in anime. The protagonist is usually, think Goku, Luffy from One Piece. It's
Hmm.
like, oh man, I just got the shit kicked out of me. What do I need to do to heal? I need to eat a lot of food right now. I need to eat a
Yeah.
lot of meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Get their powers back. It's Luffy's whole thing, It's just like get the
Yeah.
strength back. It's good stuff. So it's always great. But they always have like your food porn shot
Hmm.
in a Miyazaki movie, and this is probably one of the least ones of it. But it is fun with the spaghetti, like I said. But they love putting that stuff in, man. We'll see more and more of that as we cover a lot of these. But yeah, it's classic.
Now, with that being said, I don't want to go too much in the weeds, for future movies, just because we're talking about Lupin the Third right now. But
Mhm.
where do you think, and this is just your personal opinion, what do you think are some of the things that Miyazaki hit on that he used throughout his career just by making this movie? Do you think there's a sequence? Do you think there's a dialogue phrase or something along those lines that sticks out to you?
Um, let's see. The way he portrays the villain is very similar to a lot of his other villains.
Hmm.
His villains are always very real, and when I say that, like they're never these people that are like they're not looking for like not typically looking for like godlike power. It's always something very forward and real that can be attained, and it's always greed that is leading them to it. You know what I mean? And that's very informative to a lot of his villains. There's no anti spirals. There's no like this is all anime references. Sorry. There's no like infinitely informative. I will have the power of the gods, which is a very anime type esque thing for villains. It's always something very tangible that they want, and it's always attainable through greedy means, and and a corruption of innocence that they're always after. And I think that's very informative to a lot of his stuff. He is also less, however, the Count is also not very redeemable. A lot of his other villains can be like not redeemable, but they're very human in their perception of what's going on. Like they need to do this thing, um, and it's part of who they it's part of their
They think they're right.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's part of their situation more so than their need to have it. But it's always that greed and that corruption of innocence or that corruption of nature that's always kind of the spilling over point for them and why they're these greedy people and stuff. So I would say like that's definitely one. I'm sure there's other things like obviously like visually like you'll see a
Hmm.
lot of the same stuff,
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah, but as for like theming and stuff like that, that comes from Nausicaa, I would say. Like Nausicaa is really informs most of his stuff, which is his next movie, I think, would
Hmm.
be Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind. Maybe there's one in between. I want to say that's his next movie, but I don't know if you've looked at the list yet. But
I have not TBD, ladies and
yeah,
gentlemen, because that'll be
yeah.
the next one we do.
Yeah, and that one's his first foray into the whole identity of like environmentalism and his messages there, and that informs a lot of what he does like for throughout, I would say. So, yeah,
Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, be on the
yeah,
lookout for part two of the Miyazaki retrospectives, if you will. Um,
absolutely.
Now, obviously, we get through some of these. You had mentioned some of these characters, both main cast and supporting cast
Hmm.
for this entire movie.
Hmm.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it takes like at least two seasons in a anime for me to remember names. So I got them written down here, but I'm probably gonna pronounce them incorrectly.
Hmm.
But Jigen.
Jigen. Yep.
Oh man,
Yep.
I almost had it right. That
Jigen.
was my favorite character, and I
Yeah.
favorite character in a sense of like I liked him. He had a cool look. He had a cool vibe. That
Hmm.
tilted hat always. It was like you
Yep.
said Clint Eastwood, but it looked like it was a mix with MJ too, little Michael Jackson,
Little Michael
just
Jackson. Yep.
because of the tilted hat and the
Hmm.
suit and everything.
I can see that.
That's a character that I wanted more from that. And then what was the samurai's name again?
Goemon.
Goemon. So
Yep.
I'm a sucker for a samurai. Anytime you throw a samurai in there, I'm hook, line, and sinker. But
Yeah.
those two characters, man, they did a little bit of stuff. They did some cool
Hmm.
things. But obviously the movie isn't named after them. It's named after Lupin. So
Right.
take it for what it is. But
Yeah.
I loved these characters. Now, with you being such a fan of the fan base, or excuse me, fan of the medium of Lupin, do they have a bigger role in some of those other movies?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some movies. There's some where they kind of have like a probably comparable role or whatever, but typically because they're such big fan favorites, they always kind of have like a subplot in something. Like a good one that happens a lot of times to Goemon is like in the first scene he'll be bested by one of the by like the enemy fighter, like he'll be
Hmm.
bested by that guy, or like he'll not quite get what he needed, or something will happen to where like, and so like through the movie he's like gunning for that guy,
Yeah.
like you're waiting for that like little bit of revenge that he gets on him, and then when they finally get to meet up again, you're like, oh, here we go, here's the fight. And that's always fun. There's a few times because like different plots and everything like that. There's a few where it's very centric upon him. There's one called the Fuma Conspiracy where it's literally about his wedding. Like he's going to be married to this woman, and there it's interrupted by this, group of ninjas called the Fuma Clan, and it all kind of goes from there. So it's basically based around him and his character. So that's a pretty interesting one too. Jigen has several main like B plots that are like right. He's like right there. That's like, oh, this is a guy. Here's the villain is like a merc that he worked with at one point, and now they've split off because blah blah blah. Stuff like that. But yeah, no, Jigen and Goemon are very. It's hard to say fleshed out,
Mhm.
like because a lot of them are like a lot of the times with these characters they're very status quo. They don't want to give them so much that we start to lose interest. You know what I mean? Like there's a mystery about all three of these guys, and you don't want to tap into it too much. Like because if you tell the origin of Lupin the Third, or even if he is at this point Lupin the Third, because Arsène Lupin was in the 19th century, so he would be at this point he'd be like the fifth. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't even work like timeline wise, like that
Doesn't
he's
math out
this.
it too well.
Yeah, at a certain point. So like, what is he even Lupin the Third? Is that just a name? They've explored stuff like that, but they keep it mystery though, so you don't want to know specifically those things, so it's interesting, and they do that with Jigen and Goemon too. They don't want to demystify them too much, so you get little glimpses of like what drives them, what does this character want, etc. So it's pretty fun.
Well, if this movie has done anything, it's definitely piqued my interest into wanting to know more about this world that Miyazaki kind of got to start in, as at least
Mhm.
theatrically.
Yeah.
Um, it's
Yeah.
I've heard it from so many different people. Like this guy, like I had mentioned before, he's the master. This
Mhm.
guy's doing things. The fact that he's still doing today, fucking standard ink and cell, old school ink and cell, is
Mhm.
just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And to go back and look at him retrospectively 40 years prior,
Mhm.
42 years prior, I think this one came out in like 81, 82, somewhere around there. Or
Yeah.
maybe even it was just 80. I can't remember the year. So, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. But hit in the comments below, man. What year did this come out? But
79, I believe. 79.
79.
Yeah, I believe so.
um
Yep.
just seeing just so how far, like you go and look at any animation of 79 and 80, 81,
Hmm.
82, you
Yeah.
start to see a lot of like not very good animation, very clunky. You start seeing a lot of
Hmm.
the toy based stuff. So
it's very rudimentary, very like out the door type
Hmm.
stuff. It's like
Cookie cutter.
cookie cutter. Like Hanna-Barbera has they made a name for themselves because they made stuff that was like, oh, like this isn't just like cookie cutter stuff. This isn't like, oh, like processed stuff. There was a lot of that going on in that time frame. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I said, Miyazaki was that ushering in those first footsteps, especially overseas, of taking something like animation and then raising the bar.
Hmm.
So it's really cool, like I said, to look at everything he's done now and look at the art that he's still putting out, and then go back and look at these humble beginnings in this movie.
Hmm.
When you think about this movie in its entirety, is
Yeah.
there one plot point? Is there one line of dialogue? Is there one moment, whether it's between a character or another character, that sticks out to you, going like, "Holy shit, that's what this is all about"?
It's interesting because I would say no.
Mhm.
This movie is very much a fun time for me.
Yeah,
More so than like and like the inspiration comes from like the technical aspects of it more so. The plot is very paint by numbers in this
yeah.
movie. Not that it's bad. It's a fun little adventure, and there's some good dialogue between Lupin and Clarice. Like I think that's good stuff, but it's all very like it's very standard stuff for like a knight in shining armor type of thing. So that there's not really anything that like stands out for me for this one particularly that's like truly epic and amazing. It's just like it's like this very fun Lupin movie that just kind of hits all the right notes and keeps a pace that just keeps you interested in moving forward. It's like to kind of drive out that like one point of like that inspired that inspirational type of thing is just it's not quite there for me for this one in that regard. Not that it's I made for that. I would say it's interesting. So.
Well, let's keep on with that vein for just a second. In
Mhm.
any scene throughout this movie, is there one thing you'd like to change?
If I had to change anything, I probably just leave Fujiko out of the wedding scene entirely.
Hmm.
It doesn't make sense for her to be there
Yeah.
at all because she doesn't even. It's like she's doing something nice, and that's not Fujiko. Fujiko does not do something nice. Like if she's doing something nice, it's because it's on her way through to get the gold. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll do this real quick. Let me grab all my gold, and then it's like she's not a good person. That's the best thing about Fujiko. She's not gonna help out somebody because then when it actually happens, when she has a connection with like a character or something, it has a little bit of punch to it. But yeah, this one I would just leave her out of it. Just she doesn't need to be there. So but yeah, that's about the only thing I would change because again, it's a very paint by numbers type of thing. It's like I don't think there's anything that's like particularly insulting about anything that happens in it. So it's very it moves forward the way it should. It's a very it's like The Rock, the movie The Rock. Like it's just like
Yeah.
everything in this movie kind of does exactly what it needs to do, and it's rad. It's like that's what it needs to be. So yeah,
I was wondering I was like, why the fuck is he bringing up Dwayne The Rock
yeah, I
Johnson?
know, right? Yeah,
Where
yeah. That's what
where
people
is the
think.
correlation here?
Yeah, that's what people think.
Now,
But
so when we get to this wedding, like I had such a fantastic time, but also a hateful time with this villain.
mm,
He
yeah.
is just a dirtbag, dude. They made you hate him so much.
His design is just
Yes.
disgusting. Like it just like that hair,
He's like
the
Harry Osborn from Spidey if he melted, you
yes,
know?
yeah, he's like melty faced. Like he just doesn't look. He looks like a rubbery like piece
Hmm.
of garbage. Like he does not look like a. He looks like a rag that's like squished up and like put on a body. He sucks. Like
He definitely doesn't
everything.
look like he flushes when he
Yeah,
uses the toilet, you know what I mean?
yeah. No redeeming factors whatsoever. He's literally a scum. Also, like incestuous. That's the other
Hmm.
because like Clarice is his cousin,
Yeah.
and it's like there's like that whole
Cosby-ish
like
too.
yeah, and that there's like that whole like like quote unquote royal family type aspect. Like oh, keep it in the
Hmm.
lineage, so it's not like perceived as pervy kind of thing because it's this weird royal family nonsense, but like he like lusts after her, and it's like, dude, that's your cousin. Like
Yeah.
everything about this dude is just scummy
And
and
she's really
horrible.
young too.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
young.
exactly. Very young. She's probably like 16. I don't know if that's the case, but it's like it's scummy and it's
Yes.
gross and very deliberate. And yeah, Miyazaki, like when he makes a villain of it, he makes him a villain. Like just
And that's what I love. I love when a villain is a villain.
oh yeah.
I don't need
Yeah.
redeeming quality. I don't
Mm-mm.
need a reason why you're being bad. I mean, we had this
Yeah.
talk before, but the
Yeah.
reason why that I picked as far as like the last decade or so, the greatest villain of all time last decade, the wolf from
Yeah.
Puss in Boots' Last Wish,
Death. Yeah.
death, reincarnate. He literally
So
says it, dude. There's
so good.
nothing good about him, you know?
Yeah, not only like, well, that's the thing is like he's not even like bad. Like
Mhm.
he's just like he's bad in this situation, you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
you've mocked me this whole time and now I'm going to mess you up
Yeah.
because you know, I would and then he plays fair cop at the end. Like he
Mhm.
doesn't even like it's like, all right, you earned it, and he walks away. It's so cool. Everything about Last Wish is fucking is amazing. Is
Yes.
just amazing. And it has three great villains in it. Goldie,
Yes.
Jack, whatever his name is,
Jack Horner,
Jack Horner, and Death
the
are
wolf.
all amazing,
Yes.
amazing villains. So, it's take that Disney. They can't even freaking make a villain anymore. So you know,
But that's what I love about Miyazaki films
yeah.
because he does what animation is supposed to do. What anything, whenever you put your hard-earned money to go watch, listen to,
Mhm.
eat, read, whatever it might be that you do for fun, ladies and gentlemen, they want to elicit a feeling, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Mhm.
And with every single one of these characters that came across the screen, it elicited something to me. So they already knocked it out of the park. You could see just those underlining things that Miyazaki would start to use in his films as it starts
Mhm.
to go. Like I said, I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen quite a few of these. And you
Right.
see a lot of these things. And I noticed a lot of these things with Lupin. It was just the character, the flow,
Mhm.
the fight choreography was a lot of fun, even though this is
Mhm.
what 45-year-old movie. The
Yeah.
fight choreography was a lot of fun, a lot of action.
Oh yeah.
They sold me, or they made me a fan. Just like I said, that opening sequence, the car chases, I
Hmm.
loved everything. It was just something magical. Like I stopped, like I rented this one on Amazon, so I only had 48 hours to watch it. I probably
Yeah.
spent just a solid hour just rewinding that first part because it was just there was something about it that just captivated me. It was beautiful,
Oh
the
yeah.
scenery, the music that was going on. It just felt like you were in the car with them,
Hmm.
So they make you feel, you want to love Lupin, you want to love all of these characters, but you also really want to hate the Count.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Count, I just fucking hated every second of him.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing on the animation is that like everything has rules to it. Like
Hmm.
it's very Looney Tunes in a way. Because like that car would not survive or go up the hills that it goes up, you know, stuff like that. But the weight of the car is never different. You don't feel like it's floaty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a cartoon. It feels like a car that's actually doing these things that it could never do, but
Hmm.
it's not like floating around and being like unreal with its movement. Like it's straining. The wheels are dipping down when it makes the turns. The
Yes.
grass is grinding underneath it. It's jumping and hauling whenever it lands and stuff like that. And they're all moving, and Jigen's holding his hat the whole time. Like the rules all make sense. That's
Hmm.
what really gives it that life. That you there's a weight to these things. It's not just like yeah, whatever. You know, it's like it's a goofy car and it shouldn't be able to do this anyway. We'll just make it land however. No, it lands because this is how it would land. It would pop back up. It would have this little hop and it would skid. And then it's like just all these little things that are for
Attention to
like
detail,
yeah,
meticulousness. Yep.
that are on screen
Hmm.
for like 2/10 of a second. Like it's like
Yes.
there's like
You
it's
blink and it's
so
gone, ladies and
it's
gentlemen.
it's it's gone. It's gone. It's off the screen. It doesn't like it wouldn't matter, but it's like but it adds to the illusion of what you're watching, and it matters so much. So yeah, all that stuff, the way he does motion, the way he does grass, or the way Studio Ghibli does grass, like my God, like just
Oh yeah.
it's amazing to just to see nature kind of fly up and be, real in that way is just nuts. It's pretty crazy. So
What they are to grass as Disney is to water back in Dumbo.
yes, yes, absolutely. Disney prides itself on its water for a long time, and then Pixar picked up on that as well when they started to improve their water effects through CGI and stuff like that. That was a because water looked terrible in CGI for a long time. It was just very hard to do, and then Incredibles happened and it was like, oh, that looks great. That actually
Yeah.
looks like amazing. And then it's gotten even better, and then you have Moana, which is like
Holy
beautiful
shit.
water effects. Yeah, it's just like my God. So yeah.
So obviously, we're towards the end of this movie. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to dive too deep into this one just because you watch the first 10 to 15 minutes of it. No ill will, no nothing that goes against this movie because I had a lot of fun with this movie. But you
Mhm.
kind of know how this movie's going to end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know what you're in for 15 minutes into it.
Yeah.
I never knew these characters before this movie. I'm
Hmm.
going to go back and read a little bit about them, and then I want to watch some more of the stuff just because there's
Yeah.
a couple untapped potential with some of these characters within this movie.
Hmm.
But I want you guys to go out and watch it and tell us what you thought of the movie. Like I said, I loved the characters. It was a nice foundational piece. Like if you needed to
Hmm.
know something, a little bit of something about all of these characters. You get it in this movie.
Yeah.
You understand like the motivations, you understand why or what that, drives each one of these characters. So I thought they did a great job with this one. And
Mhm.
overall, I had fun with this movie. It was like one of those little popcorn eaters, man. Just sit there,
Yeah.
watch. I think it's like 2 hours long, eat some snacks and stuff like that, and just veg out. And it's
Yep.
a cool little quick movie.
Yep.
Um, I wouldn't change anything because, like I said, if this was like, you remember how Marvel does this with every single one of their comics. They treat the first two pages like you've never read a Incredible Hulk book or a Mighty Thor book, right? They tell
Yeah.
you how he kind of got it, what kind of happened, and then it
Yeah.
goes right into the story. This is what this one
Mhm.
felt like. It felt like a Marvel introduction
Yeah.
from a comic book. These are the characters. This is what they're going to do. Here's your little story. Now it's up
Hmm.
to you to go back and look at all the lore of Lupin.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed. Yeah, again, everything this movie does is exactly what you expect it to do, and
Hmm.
that's perfectly fine for a movie. Like,
Yes.
that's not gonna take any twists apart from Lupin getting like kind of shot, which is kind of like a bit of a shocker. But yeah,
I was
it
shocked,
does
and this is my first time seeing him.
right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, because it's such a violent scene. Like it really
Hmm.
is like a really violent scene. You're
And
just
out
like,
of
oh
nowhere.
Jesus. Like yeah, you don't expect the hero to go down so brutally. But yeah,
Well, half the time
it's
they dodge that something like that. They always dodge it and they come out of the
yeah.
smoke. And they're like, "Ha ha, you didn't get me." But
Right.
this one,
Yeah.
he took it.
Exactly.
I'm like, "Oh shit, he's
Yeah.
dead."
Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff. And it feeds into the whole Lupin misdirection style with
Mhm.
him too, because like he's always misdirecting. He's never this or that. He's always it's not that guy. It's that guy that you didn't
Never let him know your
notice.
next move.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like it's this guy you didn't notice over here. That was the actual thing. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So
So
yeah.
I didn't come up with a rating like we were doing with a couple of the other things we rated, man. So
Hmm.
what are we gonna come up with, man? Out of we want to do out of
Uh,
five
out of
Studio Ghibli's, out of
out of
five Miyazaki's.
it's interesting because like yeah, if we're speaking of it as a Miyazaki film,
Mhm.
I would give it 3.5, like 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
It's like he's it more foundational, more for
Hmm.
foundational reasons. It would probably be 3, as per like the
As
quality
usual.
of yeah, as per the quality of his usual stuff. But it's his first movie, so like what
Hmm.
he like it's like he's laying the foundations for things, and he's already this good, which is kind of amazing. So it's like 3 to 3.5. It's also not his quote unquote his property or like
Yeah.
a story he wants to tell. He just said, I want to do a Lupin movie because that's where I got my start is on the Lupin series. So let's do a movie. And yeah, it's very informative to him. So I'd give it about a 3.5 stars
Yeah,
out of
I'm gonna give the same 3.5 Miyazaki's out of 5 Miyazaki's
yeah,
on
there
this
you go.
one. Just because, like I said, I had a lot of fun with it, man. I mean, I never know what I'm going to expect whenever I go into anything that's, anime. Because I've been thrown off the loop. What looks really, really weird, and
Mhm.
I'm not talking about Miyazaki films, but what looks really, really weird in a show it fucking blows me away, but something that I think I would like, I was like, oh man, I don't really like this. This is weird. It's usually up my alley. So,
Right.
and I've never found a more, I don't want to say spectrum in the wrong way, but like opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to animation than anime. Because it's like typically I'll go for the same thing. Like I like a happy, upbeat story.
Mhm.
Most of the time, I don't like a lot of violence, a lot of gore, right? So I'm
Yeah.
typically off of those type of things, just because
Right.
I think about that shit a little bit too deep sometimes, and then it takes it home with me. So I
Right.
like I like the happy, the fun, the go lucky, and that's what I kind of had from
Yeah.
Lupin at the beginning. Very fun, very upbeat, very. It's always going to be sunshine over there, right? We just got to keep going towards that.
Yeah.
And like I said, for being his first theatrical. This is debut, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
As I stumble through that one, it's really cool to see that this was his first step in his very long career. I mean, the man's been going for decades on decades on decades. I mean, what is he, like
Mhm.
83 now, 84?
Yeah, I want to say he's 84 at this point.
Yeah.
He's pretty
And he's
old. S-
still crushing it.
st-
So
Still refuses to retire.
it's
Like,
funny. He's
well,
like Tarantino. This will be my last film. And then his last film
yeah,
comes out. He's like, I was joking. The next
yeah.
one's going to be my last one.
I could probably do another one because I didn't. What it's always for grumpy reasons too. Because like
Yeah.
I don't like how I did that scene. I want to go back and do something different than that. Yeah, it's always grumpier and grumpier with him because like he's a very grumpy old dude. We can get into that as we talk more about him because like he's a perfectionist in
Hmm.
such a way that like that informs a lot of like what you see, which is why you see this ridiculous amount of detail in everything and why he hires like these people that are just the best at what they do.
Yes.
Um, and Studio Ghibli is just that. Like they because there's lots of Studio Ghibli movies that I think are just fine. Like they're just like
Hmm.
meh, they're whatever, but they're always beautiful.
Yes.
Like
Always.
even if the story is mediocre or like the characters or whatever, it's always beautiful to look at. So it's very informed in that way, and just the fact that like it informs so much else after it, because like Steven Spielberg cites this movie for
Hmm.
like things that he enjoyed. John Lasseter for all of his faults or whatever, but like John Lasseter, co-founder of Pixar, was like this was a huge inspiration for him. The
You can kind
Batman
of see it in
animated.
Woody.
Yeah, and Woody, yeah, and
Yeah.
Woody for sure. And but Batman the animated series, the Clock King fight in the clock tower was based off of this clock tower fight too. So
Really?
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
like they
wondering why I was getting vibes that like I might have seen this before.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
because
mean?
like because when they saw that, people think it's like, oh yeah, great mouse detective and stuff like that. But it's like no, actually it was because Great Mouse Detective that was based off of this one too. This is like the first like clock tower fight that like everybody goes to because like Great Mouse Detective had it, the Batman episode had it, but this was like the one that was like, oh, that clock tower scene was Cagliostro. That was the one that was so informative to everybody else. So it's pretty crazy. So.
This is why I like doing this show with you, Brandon, because you bring up stuff. Great Mouse Detective is one of my favorite movies of all time.
So
I
good.
love that Vincent Price absolutely fucking crushes.
He crushes it.
Terrified the shit out of me. I want to watch that one with the youngest one so bad because it's such a fun movie. But I know I had I had
Basil.
fucking nightmares of that. That's a really good Vincent Price. I had nightmares of that movie.
Felicia. So good.
But
It's good
but
stuff.
nonetheless, man, thanks for that pull, man. I never would have
Yeah.
thought about that until you brought it up, man.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
like I said, I can't wait to do this one again. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to go over and check out on animationdestination.com as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Brandon's dropping some great stuff. If you like mine, you're going to love his show. Way more knowledgeable. He can pull shit out that I've never seen. I have to write stuff down and I still forget to look at it. You could just like at the drop of a hat pull some shit out and it's just so cool.
I read wikis a lot of the time
Yeah.
before I
Don't
come
tell him
on.
your secrets, Brandon.
It's all
Strike
trapped
that
up here.
from the tape.
Well, it's just I forget like my parents' birthdays, but all that animation knowledge is still just
That's
trapped
all
up
you
here
need.
for some stupid
That's
reason.
all
That's
you
all you
need.
need. Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah, forget my birthdays,
But
but
fuck them. They're gonna have another one
that
next year.
that's what Facebook is for. They remind you of that stuff.
Boy, I've gotten pulled out of the fire so many times because of Facebook.
Right? Right? Like, oh, snap.
So, but nonetheless, man, I can't wait to do this one again.
Yeah.
Obviously, number two will come when we because I can't remember which one comes next. I had a list not printed out, excuse me, I had a list written down of which ones we would do.
Yeah.
But for sure, I can't wait for part two. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll probably do that one over on Brandon's show, and we'll just trade off
Yeah.
every episode.
That'd be
Well,
great.
he's been Brandon. I've been Julian. It's been another piece of your childhood. Good night.